There you see Kyrie Irving. He has 7 games where he's had at least 25 points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds. The Caesar 6-1 when he stuffs the stat sheet. There's Gordon Hayward, had his first 30-point game since April 2017, 5 days ago. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. seems to be putting up 20 points every single game.
I used to have a Sherling back in the day.
Steps on the court. Did you now?
Sheepskin, yes, no doubt.
Very nice jacket. And then you see the Houston Rockets and the Utah Jazz. We saw them last season in the playoffs, and you'll see them again tonight, 10:30 p.m. on TNT. And, of course, the best hour of your day starts right now. Ro Parrish right here in the driver's seat running point. And I can get the pass to my man who's going to score, Kenny the Jet Smith. You ready to shoot?
All the time.
Oh, you ready to shoot? You got that?
I'm more than one-dimensional. I'm not just a scoring point guard either.
You can do multiple things.
Without question.
Everything, baseline to baseline, you know how we do. Of course, let's jump right into it. Celtics playing tonight against the New York Knicks, the oldest rivalry in
It's a rivalry still?
Well, in some circles, it's still considered a rivalry. So
it's fun to watch. How's that?
It definitely is fun to watch. Actually, you can consider it a rivalry because the Knicks beat the Celtics last time they played in Boston. So
rivalry is about championships, in my opinion.
Oh,
that's all. So Boston would say we're closer to that than New York. That's just real. That's just real. I don't keep it real. I keep it right.
So what we'll do right now is we'll bring in Sean Grande, the voice of the Celtics. Now, Sean, number one, thank you for joining us. Welcome into Game Time. We've got to start with Kyrie Irving. Tommy Henson, he said earlier in the season that Kyrie wasn't in shape. Kyrie takes that to heart. All of a sudden, Kyrie appears to start playing better. So have you noticed a change in Kyrie's game since Tommy made that statement?
Well, Tommy is also someone that keeps it right as opposed to keeping it real. In fact, he keeps it every way there is to keep it. I think that, Kyrie is always looking for something external to sort of motivate him. I don't know if it was Tommy's comments, specifically that got a lot of play. I think Kyrie has been pretty focused and pretty locked in, and probably the most enjoyable thing because he's such an offensive savant and does something every night that you've never seen before. But the way he's competing, he's never going to be Defensive Player of the Year, but the way he's competing defensively, the way he's leading this team, the way he has sort of stayed in the ear of Gordon Hayward while Gordon goes through this very difficult first part of his rehab and in his first season back, those are the things that to me have been most encouraging about the year that guy's had.
Well, I would say what's the million? Well, maybe the $100 million question. So with all of the forwards that are there, the rumblings of, can I get my 30 minutes a night? Has that ever started, will start, and how is it going to be resolved?
Everybody's waiting for it, Kenny. Everybody's waiting for it to start. I think the bigger issue, to me, the biggest issue for Brad Stevens has been not a guy who played 29 minutes who's now playing 24. It's who is playing with who. And can you get those minutes going to be quality minutes? It's not Terry Rozier's 5 or 6 minutes coming off his total from last year. It's what can he do in those minutes? Which combinations of guys fit together? And on the one hand, it's an embarrassment of riches. On the other hand, it should be pointed out the Celtics, the last 5 games, clearly been their best 5 of the year. They won 4 or 5, the best offensive team in the league in that span. You have to point out that at least one rotation player has been out for each of those 5 games. So what makes tonight particularly intriguing on TNT at the top of the hour is now what does Brad Stevens do that everybody is back?
And it's really not a question, probably more of a statement. But see, he went from 29 to 24 when he was thinking of going from 29 to 35. So it's really a 10-minute difference. So he's thinking.
Kenny, let me ask you this. Here's the thing, and this is what I say to Terry and what I say about the whole thing. This isn't the old day. You can play 24 minutes and still get paid. Because if you're playing 24 minutes on a winning team and you're going to the playoffs and you're having games like Terry Rozier had last year, you're going to get paid by somebody regardless of whether it's 29 minutes or 24, right?
Yeah, you will. But I think the one thing as a competitor, the one thing is when you're sitting and you're watching and you don't feel like you're part of the reason why you win, that burns at you more than $5 million or $1 million. It really burns in your soul when you say, man, I'm not part of the win. And even though guys are winning, I'm not part of it.
Very true.
I think it's exactly right, and that's why there isn't as much angst now because the Celtics are winning, and winning makes all that other stuff tends to go away. That it's a much bigger issue how many minutes everybody's playing when you're 10-10 versus when you won 4 or 5.
You mentioned that record of 10-10. Marcus Smart was coming off the bench when they were 10-10. Since he's been inserted into the starting lineup, they haven't lost a game. Now, he's clearly a rotational player, but talk about the impact that he's had specifically, because you mentioned different guys playing with different guys. How has his impact playing with this group of players been?
Well, not a revolutionary move to put a defensive player in with an elite offensive player and pair them in the backcourt. I think Brad Stevens' reticence to do it was the trickle-down effect, because now it means you've got two guys. In this case, you've got Jaylen Brown, you have Gordon Hayward, and the aforementioned Terry Rozier. All of these guys now coming off the bench. It's just one more starting spot that gets taken up. But every Celtic fan knows this, and I think, NBA fans watch the Celtics enough now, see them enough on national TV to know that when Marcus Smart is on the floor, he makes winning plays. And the more he is on the floor, the more success the Celtics are going to have. He's that kind of guy that can go 0 for 15, which on some nights he's flirted with doing, and you can still have a successful run from Marcus Smart. So it's a pairing that Kyrie is very comfortable with, that he's very happy with, and I think it's a pretty good indicator that it's going to be here for a while.
Someone else who's going to be there for a while, Jason Tatum. We all know about his performance last season in the playoffs. This season, second in the team in scoring, leading the team in rebounding. But he's had to make somewhat of adjustment. We heard about him working with Kobe in the offseason and the rumor, just shoot it every time. Talk about his adjustment and how he's, I guess you can say, trying to find his role with playing with all these talented players. How's that adjustment been for him?
There's an old story about Mickey Mantle talking to Ted Williams at an All-Star game decades ago, and when he got done, he was so confused. He had so many new information talking with a prodigy like Ted Williams that he went 0 for 20 right after the All-Star break. I think you wonder about Kobe and all that time. It got a lot of play. It's a sexy story, obviously. I think Jason Tatum has been shooting. It's where his shots come from, I think, that has been the issue. When Jason Tatum has struggled this year, that mid-range game, that long two, that's now – you want guys to feel like they have hot feet when they step to 19 feet, so that they have to move, go back behind a three-point line or attack. And when you see the athleticism, you see the way you can defend now or not be able to defend in the league, you realize a guy like Jason Tatum, 9 times out of 10, he should be able to get to the rim. So to me, the issue with Jason Tatum, to whatever degree there's been one, and let's remember he's still 20 years old, is that he can get to the rim a lot more. And once he gives up that 19, 20-footer, particularly early in the shot clock, you're going to see a lot of better things happen.
Jaylen Brown has the tailbone injury. He will be playing tonight, correct? And what is his role going to be now as he's coming off that injury?
Well, coming off the bench is what he's going to be doing. You give up your starting spot in this team, it could be a while before you get it back with all the guys playing in front of you. You're talking about Marcus Morris and Marcus Smart, two guys who generally have been starting here the last few weeks, and they're playing extremely well in their roles. It's also the other benefit here. They are the two most vocal locker room guys. And so you have a little more cachet, Kenny. When you're starting, you have a little more cachet as a leader, particularly in that locker room. And so I think Jaylen Brown, it's about fitting in. It's about the combination of players. Who does he play with? He's going to defend at a very high level. Offensively, his numbers are not good. But remember, this is a guy, he's the guy that gets that call to guard the best guy on the other team virtually every night. That can wreak some havoc on your offensive numbers, and I think it's a matter of, he came off the bench his first year plus, and I think he'll get used to doing it again, at least for a while.
That is the voice of the Celtics that you hear, Sean Grande. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you soon. Have a good game.
You got it, guys.
Jet. So one thing that he said, the embarrassment of riches. We know how talented this Celtics team has been on paper, was the sexy pick before the season. They're going to come out of the East. Came stumbling out the gate. It seems like they're figuring it out. Do you see that they have a solution with the line they're playing, especially having Smart starting now?
Well, I don't know if Marcus Smart starting is the answer. I think that they still have some issues, and it's a log at the small forward position. And with Hayward, Jaylen Brown, and Tatum, those guys particularly score in the same areas of the floor. They want to be in the same areas on the floor on the defensive end, collectively. So I think it's difficult to have three guys that do the same thing. And when they're effective, when they're at their best, they're actually doing the same thing. I think that's the issue. And so I got a new segment that we're going to call this.
All right.
We're going to call this the row your boat segment.
And how does this segment work?
Because this is about you.
You
really?
like
that. You like Shaq like that.
Shaq like that.
It's the row your boat, because we look at Boston, who has this issues that are going on. And I was looking at the league, and it just kind of glanced, because I'm a former Rocket. Who is in more trouble the Houston Rockets or the San Antonio Spurs down in Texas. So if we row our boat and we row our boat.
I see what you did there.
I would say, on my personal, I would say that the San Antonio Spurs, because this was a team that should be better than 11-14. The Rockets have injuries, they have trades, they have Carmelo leaving, they have all the excuses built in. San Antonio doesn't have the excuses built in.
Listen, we're going to get into that later on in the show. You're here for a little bit, but I like the segment of row your boat. Now Shaq's in here. He once famously said, don't fake the funk on a nasty dunk. Now he's in studio, as you see on your screen, and we got Diesel's dunks coming up, and you definitely don't want to miss it. Hit that shot, Shaq.
Oh,
bam.
good shot.
Nothing but net.
Nothing but net. It didn't hit the rim at all. All net.
Row your boat.
Oh, we're going to do that every week.